Welcome back to Whiteout Weekly on another glorious victory week as the Nittany Lions improve to 7-2, now number 14 in the college football playoff rankings, and still hunting for a potential Rose or Orange Bowl bid, with Ohio State ranked 2, Michigan at 3. But first, let's start around the trenches, aka around the Big Ten. And I know we talked about it last week, Dave, but Press Chaos coming on strong.
It's in motion, baby. It's in motion.
The train has left the station officially. So just to go over the Professor Chaos theory, Wisconsin has to win out. Illinois has to lose out. Purdue has to lose one of their last 4 games and beat Illinois this week. Purdue lost last week, 24-3 to Iowa. Bang, cross that off the list. But now we have Iowa at 5-4, same record as Wisconsin in the Big Ten, 3-3. So we have a newcomer in the chaos theory. But last week, Wisconsin does its job in winning out, beats Maryland 23-10, and Illinois loses a big game 23-15 to Michigan State. So that's where Professor Chaos really showed up.
Yeah.
So moving forward here, Illinois, like I said, faces Purdue at home this week, which is, I think, an easily losable game with Purdue's potent offense.
Especially if they wake up.
Yeah, gotta wake up. Need Aiden O'Connell to show up. He's starting for them still, right?
Yep.
He's been.
Yeah, he was non-existent last week.
I feel like he's been in and out like all season. So first things first, Purdue needs to beat Illinois. Purdue's out of it. Doesn't matter because Wisconsin beat them 2 weeks ago, so they hold that head-to-head matchup tiebreaker. Then Illinois has to go to Michigan, which they're going to lose that game. Mm-hmm. And then their final game, where Professor Chaos has to rain his terror all upon all upon Illinois as they go to Northwestern for the final game.
Ooh, to Evanston. Pat Fitzgerald, baby. He is standing right next to Professor Chaos in that game.
He has to. He's got to bring the grit. He's got to bring the grit.
Bring the grit. Bring your lunch pail. Get it done, Pat.
What do you got first, Pat? Come on. Other side of it. Wisconsin has Iowa this week. Huge game for them. Huge game for them because if they have any chance of the Professor Chaos theory going through, they got to win that game. As I said, same record, 5-4 overall, 3-3 in the Big Ten. After Iowa, Wisconsin plays at Nebraska. I think that's an easy win. Maybe not an easy win, but winnable game. And then they finish the season at home against Minnesota. So if the chaos theory strings together perfectly, that game's going to be huge. Wisconsin's going to be up for it because they know if they win and somehow Northwestern takes down Illinois, who knows, if they lose 4 in a row, they could be so down on themselves. Northwestern could just, run right through them. Absolutely.
Is Northwestern totally out of it? Are they totally out of it? They are, right?
They've won 1 game. I tried to do a chaos theory for them. Didn't work.
Yeah, how chaotic does chaos have to be for that? But yeah.
But there's a reason to keep the divisions right there. Just chaos in the West, right?
Don't get rid of them. We live for this, man. Keep the East and the West.
Let a 7-5 team go to the Big Ten championship instead of a 10-2 team. Come on.
I will sit idly by for Penn State to play third fiddle in the East to allow ourselves to watch this beauty in the West take fold every single year. I'm down for it.
Yep. I'm officially the choo-choo conductor of the Professor Chaos train, which is off and running. The other thing, I saw in the Big Ten was Ohio State struggling hard, only winning 21-7 over Northwestern. Actually worked that game. And if Northwestern had any semblance of offense, they had a couple big plays, but turnovers, and their offense is just a mess. Defense played out of their minds.
Mm-hmm.
But again, any semblance of offense, they honestly might have upset the Buckeyes. I don't know what's going on in Ohio State, but they've not looked like the dominant squad that we thought they were coming into, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, even going all the way back to the season opener against Notre Dame, you just saw a lot of inconsistency and just times where they just don't look like their usual selves. And I know they've had a ton of injuries. You got Jackson Smith and Jigbo's been in and out of the lineup all year, Mayan Williams, Trayvon Henderson, but they still got a ton of weapons there. We saw it firsthand, Marvin Harrison, Ibuka, a lot of guys that can make plays for this team, and a Heisman front-runner quarterback, but they're just not getting the job done. Defense has definitely improved, like we mentioned in the pod leading up to and after the Ohio State game with Jim Knowles, but that offense, something ain't right and something ain't clicking, and they've been able to get it done when they need to so far this year. But when you talk about a test coming up against Michigan and then a potential CFP berth, or however the chips may fall, they got to turn it on if they want to fulfill those big dreams that they got this year.
Yeah, their offensive line honestly did not look great against that defense. And CJ Stroud, Heisman favorite, the win was crazy at Northwestern, but he was very, very inaccurate, probably due to the win, but like it just looked like he was off with his timing, kind of stuttering on his first throw, like tempted to throw it but doesn't, but tucks it in, then kind of has to throw it away. He is good at avoiding sacks, but I don't know. We'll see what Ohio State brings the last 3 weeks of the season.
Hey, that wind didn't stop Spencer Petras and Iowa Hawkeyes offense, so no excuses.
Yeah, win can't be an excuse. Come on, stopping field goals at the goal line before it even reaches. That was a crazy clip. Back to last week in Happy Valley, Penn State puts a beat down on Indiana, 45-14, as the Hoosiers went 3 quarterbacks deep after Jack Tuttle went down after his 3rd or 4th time getting put in the dirt. And
let's just talk about Jack Tuttle, right? So we mentioned he put his name in the transfer portal. He gets thrusted into the starting lineup and says, yes, I will suit up once more for the Indiana Hoosiers.
A man of honor.
Even though this man has said, I am quitting on all of you guys and I'm getting the hell out of town, but I will willingly go into these hard conditions against this vaunted Penn State defense and just get obliterated all afternoon long. So much so that he had to get pulled from the game. So,
I mean, that
shout out Jack Tuttle.
That Tarburton hit might have eclipsed the AK hit.
I think it did.
Like that kid, I know we've clowned on him a lot on this podcast, but it has turned from clowning to now respect. He's the Ned Stark of football. He's just a man of honor. Like, you need me to play, I'll go out there, I'll get sacked, I'll probably have a concussion test either during the game or after the game. I know that's going to happen, but I'm going to do it for you guys, for Indiana.
There's going to be a Big Ten icon special about him on the Big Ten Network at some point. Just watch.
Oh, for sure. For sure. The Jack Tuttle experience. I do want to say, though, our defense absolutely dominated. They did have 3 quarterbacks go in the game. Sean Shivers, I think, was a little injured still. But they totaled 131 passing yards, 65 rushing yards, and we got 6 sacks on them. And I want to focus on the Penn State secondary, who we have officially named the Faceless Men, because I feel like that's what they are. They're all just athletic, lengthy, playmaking ball hogs who any of them can pick it off at any time. Didn't allow a single inch in the passing game. Joey Porter Jr., the leader of the Faceless Men, not targeted a single time the entire game. That's how much afraid Indiana was to throw his way. On the opposite side, Kalen King gave up the most yards in the Faceless Men with 39, but 35 of those yards came on one catch. But I want to shout out his twin brother, Kobe King, who had game high 8 total tackles, 6 solo, which were also a game high. Another game high, 6 defensive stops, 2.5 tackles for loss, 3 pressures, 1 QB hit, and 1 catch allowed for 3 yards. So the King brothers dominated in my book.
Yeah, big game for Kobe in a tight spot because you had Curtis Jacobs and Tyler Elsdon, who had beat out Kobe King in the spring through fall camp and spring ball for that middle linebacker role. Both go down in the first half with undisclosed injuries, and their status actually still up in the air. But for him to step in, he's gotten run time throughout the season, but be able to step in a Big Ten game, in a Big Ten environment, in that, on the road and be able to put up numbers like that could be a nice springboard for him as he goes down the home stretch here, right? Because if Elsdon's out for the next 3 games, you got someone that you can count on, although the depth's going to be tested a little bit. But he's definitely assured that coaching staff that he can come in and get the job done. So hell of a job by Mr. King.
And he's primarily middle linebacker, right? Like Mike.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then Abdul either plays the Sam or the Will. So that's a stud tandem at linebacker going forward.
For sure.
Bringing back the days of LBU.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to keep the momentum going against our feisty little brother rivalry, I guess, because so many people on social media got mad at us for calling it a rivalry when we posted the handshake video. Like, rivalry, what are you talking about? It's like, well, all these players know each other because they're from the same hotbed recruiting areas. It's heated every time we play. It's close pretty much every time we play. So I would say that's the budding of a rivalry. But other people disagree, and I do get it. I mean, I forget what our record is in the series. I think it's like 41-3-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So there is that, but do you want it to get close? Is that how you determine rivalries? Like, if they get closer, they win 40 games against us in a row. You want that to happen? No. I want a rivalry to be two teams that hate each other going after it every time. It doesn't matter.
We lose to Maryland 40 times in a row, put us in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, like, get us out. Go to the ACC. We'll swap places. So before we get into the details of Saturday's 3:30 kickoff, we have a very special guest on the pod. So for my family, the Maryland and Penn State rivalry runs very deep. My dad, his 2 brothers, and his sister went to Penn State. I went to Penn State with my sister, and I had 2 younger cousins who went to Penn State. So we all drank and had a good time, while the other side of my family were athletes. My mom was a Hall of Fame lacrosse player. Shout out to her at Maryland. My brother also played lacrosse at Maryland, just graduated. And to top all of this off, my dad's sister went to Penn State, dated and married a football player from Maryland, Rob Klein. My uncle, one of my favorites, played defensive line for Maryland from 1983 to 1987 and had his share of stories about the raucous environment at Beaver Stadium.
Yeah, I know we spoke for a short time, but a really, really great guy to meet, stand-up guy, and definitely would fit into Big Ten culture, being the defensive tackle that he was. No, he was in the ACC, but played against Penn State, but he's Big Ten through and through. So great to have a chance to meet him.
Yeah, I think the man is Mr. Big Ten. Could be his nickname. Enjoy. So you played D-line, nose tackle, right?
Well, no, back then, only my last year that I did nose guard and tackle. For the first 4 years, we were wide tackle 6, so I was defensive guard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were a
So
little bit of Jordan Davis before Jordan Davis.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, a little smaller maybe.
And then you went there from
So yeah, it's a
83 to
yeah, it
87.
was correct. It was redshirt my first year, and one of the first games I got to play in was Penn State,
Oh,
because
no
we had
way.
two. Yeah, because we had two Jewish linemen. So with the wild tackle 6, you had two guards, and the two starting guards, defensive guards, were Jewish, and they decided to observe a Jewish holiday. So I was like third in the depth chart and wasn't going to play, especially against Penn State. And I was definitely getting playing time for that game. So we go up there, and I had no idea what to expect. And of course, we take a bus up there. We don't fly. And we get to the stadium, and we're getting dressed, and we go out on the field to start stretching and doing whatever. And the fans are out there just going crazy. And I'm like, I remember, like, sitting on the ground doing the freaking hamstring stretch, and this crowd's going, "We are Penn State," and I'm like getting goosebumps all over me. I'm like, man, what the hell did I get into? Why are they observing this damn holiday? So yeah, I mean, I got to play, and I remember. So when we played Penn State for those 5 years, we didn't. The total amount of points that we lost by were 7 points. So it was always a close game. I think
That
one
was
of the
when
years we had
they were in their kind of heyday.
with
During
yeah,
that time.
definitely.
Yeah.
So my first year was Boomer's last year. So for most of the time I was there, for the first 3 years or so, was Frank Reich and Stan Gallball were the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember Jess Atkinson missed a field goal. We would have won the game, but he missed it. So we lost by one point.
Yep.
So it was just crazy.
Yeah, I was looking
Crazy.
back on all the from 83 to 87, and it was all like one score games, like field goal
Yeah.
game, touchdown
Yeah,
game.
exactly.
Was Maryland in a conference at that point, or were you guys
Yeah,
independent?
we were ACC that year. So
Okay.
we won. I don't specifically remember the which years that we were champions in, but 83, I didn't get to go because I was redshirted. We did Florida Citrus Bowl.
Okay.
Went down to the Sun Bowl. I can't remember which year that was. We went to now it was called the Cherry Bowl, so we played in Detroit, Michigan. So we were able to go
Good
there.
old Cherry Bowl.
Yeah, I got to be at the game in '85 with at Miami with Frank Reich and Stan Gallball when they came back, and greatest comeback college football history. Still, I didn't get to play. I stood on the sidelines, but what a great game to watch there.
Great seats for it.
Yeah, but
Well,
80. So in 80, so that was 84 when I was a redshirt freshman. In '86 when we played up there again. A couple memorable things happened there. I was on the punt return team, and I don't know if they let me go or whatever, but rushing the punter, and I break through, and I'm like heading right for it. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna block this punt, and all of a sudden this freaking squatty ass, probably fullback comes up and just cold cocks me and hits me so hard that my helmet comes down and freaking almost breaks my nose, but I was split open on the
man.
top of my nose, and I kept that for the rest of the season. My wife, girlfriend at the time, now wife, was just like, "You're a mess," but that was pre concussion protocol. Somehow I passed the test on the sidelines and went back in the game. But
what was the test back then? Just what day is it?
I like, where are you? And I'm like, I remember
fingers?
a couple of questions. Yeah, exactly. How many fingers?
Yeah.
Do you know what day it is? I'm like, it's Saturday. You know where you are? And, yeah, I'm playing Penn State football game. That's where I am.
Yeah. I just got
So,
walked.
but I remember that ride home was just horrible because, just a couple, like, I think I had 800 milligrams Motrins at that time just for the bus ride to get home. But I think that was a couple of other things I remember from that game. DJ Dozier, I think, was a running back. And I mean, I tried to tackle him and hit his legs. You got to tackle him high. You don't want to hit the legs. And, that sends you for a loop there. But the other one that was awesome, and I think there's a good picture of it. But Chuck Fawcett was a linebacker. He actually played, I think, for the Chargers for a little bit. But Chuck Fawcett, he's in the top 3 still of tackles for Maryland. But it was a goal line stand, and Chuck Fawcett jumped over the pile, and just as the running back Dozier was coming up, he hit him coming down and stopped the play, and they only got a field goal. So that was pretty awesome. It was just amazing time. That stadium was just insane.
It's those plays like when one guy jumps, another guy jumps, and they meet in midair, and one guy literally stops him with all of his force. That reminds me of how athletic all of these guys are. That you can jump up, catch a guy in the air, and not move an inch. Stop him at the goal line.
Yeah. So the other thing too, as far as the stadiums go, that's I think Penn State's probably number one, just because of the fans and the size and the noise. You go to Michigan and Penn State's like this as far as the stands, and Michigan's like that, so you don't really hear it. But the other one is just Clemson. Those guys are insane down there. But definitely Penn State at the top of the list for stadiums that played.
And then you played the Big House, Death Valley, and then the Orange Bowl. It was when it was called the Orange Bowl, Miami, right?
Yeah, that was all I remember about that. It didn't impress me. It was just hot. Stuff, it was just freaking hot. But that game, and I know up at Penn State, I remember Herb Franz was our weight strength coach up there, and he was breaking chalkboards and stuff. We've got to get it going. Just going off. That was definitely a motivator. But at least down in Miami, I just remember it was just quiet in that locker room at halftime, and they're just like, yeah, we gotta what we gotta do and come out and do it. So it was intense. That was awesome down there.
That is awesome. And then you guys played. So you played at Bird Stadium, and then you had a couple games at Memorial Stadium, right?
Yeah.
In Baltimore?
Yeah. Anytime we played, for whatever reason, I think they just wanted to, because of the fan base, they wanted a bigger stadium. So we played it in Memorial Stadium before they tore it down. And that was a little crazy too, because just the end zone was right, 5 feet away from the stands. But I do remember, the playing there. I always did kind of well because I had quicker feet, and Penn State was always, had quick linemen, and they thought they were going to be able to pull stuff over on us, and we always had a good game against them. But probably the biggest thing, that the hatred that I had against Penn State was even more deep rooted, as I think it was either freshman or sophomore in high school, and I went up to the Penn State football camp, and when they came out and recruited me, they didn't give me the time of day. I don't think I showed up on a piece of paper as meeting their expectations. So, I really wanted to prove it to Penn State, because those guys wouldn't even look at me when I was being recruited.
Yeah, a little chip on your shoulder.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
It's funny how our family is quite literally split down the middle.
Yeah,
Maryland, Penn State.
Yeah.
And
it's very, very cool with Maryland. A lot of all the things that they've done with the stadium, it all came after I was there. I think I went back like I think it was 2 years after I graduated, and they invited us former players to come to a spring game, and actually scrimmage against the former players. You know, I
Oh,
thought
no
I was
way.
sore. I thought I was sore after a regular game. I was insanely sore after
Yeah,
playing
I
in
couldn't
that game.
imagine that.
I
Playing,
mean, yeah, because
back and
all I was doing, the only lifting I was doing was 12-ounce beers, and you know, that was not fun. And I'm pretty sure we were in the new part of their stadium, and I remember not being very happy that this came along after I left. So we were in that small little building. About the only thing that was nice was Boomer Esiason bought a Clips sound system for the weight room.
there we go.
And that was about the only nice thing. And the weight room was nice, don't get me wrong, but you know, the other facilities came well after. So
Yeah, my brother played lacrosse at Maryland, so just going to see his games at the lacrosse stadium, it's just like the facilities are unbelievable, just absolutely top notch. So they definitely poured some money into that program for
and
sure.
the best thing, you know, we thought we were all hot shots, and you know, of course, in the springtime, we're out there doing spring practice, and they had they called it Bird Beach. So the southern facing stands, you know, all the girls would come out and look, you know, check us out and stuff. And that was always fun. Always fun to have, you know, Bird Beach, and we're out there doing our practices and stuff. So it was a lot of fun.
I
I'll
like
tell you
that.
what, I had one of my best spring scrimmages. I remember one of my buddies told me I couldn't do 7 beers in 21 minutes. So I did 7 beers, 21 minutes, went to bed. The next day I had the best scrimmage of my life. So,
There we go.
anyway.
Maybe that's the key.
Some people load up on
Right.
carbs the night before a big scrimmage. Some people just drink 7 beers.
Or it was carb loading, and I slept well. Right?
Yeah, boom. That's all you need. So I was looking at the spread for this weekend's game. Penn State is 10-point favorites. And I called my dad and told him that. And he quoted Dave and said, the disrespect. He thought Penn State should be way bigger favorites. We had a.
Yeah. What? Excuse me?
What?
It's way more. We're going to come through. Don't you worry. We'll hang with you.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a lot of chirping online. I posted the clip of the handshake. I think it was in 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
When the Maryland captains didn't shake the Penn State captains. I think that was the first year Maryland was in the Big Ten. So they kind of wanted to make a statement like, we're here. And I called it a rivalry. One of those words that other people can say fine, but you have trouble with. Rivalry is mine. I can't say it for some reason. And I called it a rivalry, and people are like, it's not a rivalry. It's not a rivalry. I'm like, it's two schools who recruit from pretty much the same hotbed.
Yeah.
And the players pretty much all know each other. Yeah. I would consider that
we had so many people in my class from Philadelphia and the Pittsburgh area. Tremendous amount of players that came from PA, that's for sure.
Yeah, and despite the lopsided record, it's going to be heated every single time because these players know each other back and forth, and yeah.
Well, if anything comes out of this season, I think it's going to definitely help with the program overall, and get some more people looking at Maryland, saying, you know, they've got the coach, he knows what he's doing, and you know, I think things will come by, and hopefully no other crazy things happen as far as players and whatnot that sheds a poor light on things.
I think Tagovailoa coming to Maryland, that was huge for them.
Yeah.
You're a name like him. So I don't know if you remember, funny story. I think it was 2017 around Thanksgiving, where our family went, the Penn State side, Maryland side. We went to, I forget which bar in Malvern.
PG Wheelahands, Matt. PG Wheelahands.
How do you remember this? How do you remember it?
Because I've been repeated this story many times, and I had to apologize to my children. And thank God I'm in New Orleans and I can't be in PJ Wheelahands for this.
Oh no,
But,
no. We're
yeah,
we're
so-
gonna FaceTime you, and so the contest was anytime. So if Maryland scored, the Maryland fans bought the Penn or made the Penn State fans take a shot. Vice versa. The final score in 2017 was 66-3 Penn State. My
and
brothers.
I had to.
Go
My
ahead.
daughter had to drive me home, and she only had a permit. And of course, she clips a deer on the way home. So of course, I had to stay true. But Matt, you skipped over a little part of that story. So for some reason, most of the people didn't show up till about halftime because you're already hungover from the night before. You didn't want to come out.
Yeah, but then again, I would have given you you were getting off easy with some Fireball. I would have gone like Everclear for a shot right away.
Okay.
I would have gotten going.
Oh,
But yeah, I remember. I think Jake was home for my brother. Jake was home for Thanksgiving,
yeah.
his break, and I just remember he was like, "I'm not doing that anymore." I'm like, "Yes, you are." this is how you know. This is how Penn State dominates.
Yeah. That was horrible.
You're looking out this time that you're in Arkansas, but I'll get you somehow.
All right,
total
2:30.
up a
You got
point.
it.
Maybe send down like individual shots to New Orleans.
Individually packaged Fireball shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be doing a clear liquid. I'll be doing vodka.
There you go.
Nah, not for you.
Diane says no.
Yeah, not happening again. Not happening again. All right. Well, Dave's got a good dinner.
All right,
Rob,
cool.
You are the man. Thank you so much for coming on. Love talking to you about all your football days and stuff. It's always cool to hear.
Yeah. I got plenty of other stories, but you can't do it on a podcast. But yeah.
You definitely good. We'll bring you on next year, and we'll go uncensored version. When your wife's not right beside you.
Yeah.
Well, tell the fam I say hi.
Dumbbells on the ear. I shall. You like the dumbbells on the ear? I look.
That's a good look.
Love them. Yeah.
Like Van Pelt, right?
Yeah. Like a flight pilot, flight coordinator.
Cool. All right, man. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Tell the family I say hi and enjoy your time in Arkansas, and obviously have a great time in New Orleans. It's gonna be awesome.
I will.
Thanks
Take care, man.
All right, Rob. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Dozier looking to throw back to Schaefer, and he is tripped up and dropped the 25-yard line. Robert Klein, junior defensive tackle, knocked Dozier down. He was looking for John Schaefer.
Awesome conversation. Talk to my Uncle Rob. Always love hearing his stories. Such a great guy. I absolutely love him. So, as we said, Penn State 10-point favorites. And as Dave says, the disrespect on that spread. I thought that was going to be at least 2 touchdowns. Over under set at 59. A little betting tidbits before we start. Penn State is 6-1 straight up and 5-2 against the spread against Maryland since that handshake snub in 2014. As for their offense goes, it's a very hit or miss offense. It can be explosive at times. It can be absolutely disastrous at times. It's led by Taulia Tagovailoa, who's throwing close to 70% accuracy this season, but has dealt with his share of injuries, not as mobile as he once was. The offensive line returns 4 starters. 3 of them are at different positions, but they've led 22 sacks on the year. So definitely a weakness that we can exploit. I personally think the best player is their running back, Roman Hemby. He's 3rd in the Big Ten in yards per carry with 6.2. And there are 4 players in the Big Ten with over 100 carries and 0 fumbles. Roman Hemby, Mayan Williams, Sean Shivers, Blake Corum. So not only does the dude eat up yards, he doesn't fumble. On top of that, they got an awesome wide receiving group. I'm not sure about Raheem Jarrett, his status. He had that awful looking injury against Michigan, I think it was earlier in the season, where he fell on his leg and it looked awful. But he came back and played and left in the second half against Michigan State last week with a lower leg injury. He's listed as questionable, but they got some dudes at receiver behind him. Deshaun Jones, senior, 6'2", 185, big boy. Dante Demas Jr., another senior, another big boy, 6'4", 215. And then a transfer from Florida, I believe, Jacob Copeland, who's averaging 15.4 yards per catch. So even without Raheem Jarrett, they have an absolute stud wide receiver group. But as we mentioned before in the podcast, Joey Porter Jr. just shuts down one side of the field. So it's really going to come down. They're going to be testing Kalen King, him and Daquan Hardy, a ton, absolute ton.
Yeah. From a defensive standpoint, right? So Penn State last 2 wins, so they've put up a lot of points. So they put up 40, at least 40 points a game in both those contests. When you talk about the Minnesota win, the Indiana win, Maryland
which we didn't expect, right?
Didn't expect at all.
Well, you caught it last week, but didn't expect.
Yeah, but still didn't expect it. But Maryland hasn't given up 40 points yet in a game this year. So they're giving up on average 24 points per game, which is tied for 83rd best in the nation. Run defense allowing 3.8 yards per carry. So going to be another tough test for this O-line. And going back to last week against Indiana, I thought it was personally a masterful job done by Phil Troutwine and staff, given the circumstances and the injuries that they were going to that ball game with. So you had Olu Fashanu, who I know we haven't talked about a lot. We have on social media, but his draft stock is soaring. He is being talked about as the 5th overall prospect in the 2023 draft, which is crazy. When we just think about, hey, this guy started in the Outback Bowl. He looks pretty good. And let's see what we got in 2022. And he has taken that and run with it. But to be without him last week and thrusting a guy like Drew Shelton, true freshman from Downingtown, into that starting left tackle role, and to go throughout that Indiana game and not hear his name was a amazing thing to see. It speaks volumes to the depth that they built. You had Landon Tengwall, who was out as well, and it was actually announced that he's out for the year.
Yeah,
so he'll be missed down here, in the home stretch. And then Hunter Norzad filling in. Caden Wallace has been banged up. So going to be another tough test given the injury status of the O-line going into this game, because Maryland's got a pretty nasty front seven and got to be able to continue to show, like they have been all throughout the year, minus a couple games. Speaking of Penn State's running attack, to be able to run the ball and be able to control the tempo and dictate the flow of this game.
And yeah, going back to last week, we again saw the K-Tron jump cuts. Those continue to amaze me every single time. But like you said, Norzad, I think, announced he's coming back for next season as well, right?
Which is going to be huge for that depth.
Yeah, that's big for the interior. And then Drew Shelton. I mean, he's a true freshman, right?
Yeah, he's a true freshman.
A true freshman starting at left tackle and allowing 3 pressures on 42 pass block snaps, I believe. That's unbelievable. That's a really, really good start. I don't care who the opponent is. That's a very good start to a collegiate career. And no slight on him, he does have the frame of like a tight end, so he's only going to get bigger and stronger. So I think sky's the limit for that kid. And the story that James Franklin told of during the COVID recruiting, how he sent the video of him like blocking his sister. That cracked me up. So you signed, it's kind of a questionable signing. Why'd you sign him? Oh, I saw a video of him pancaking his sister in the backyard. Knew he had to be on the team. It's like, what?
Yeah, and speaking of Shelton, right, they got a real tough decision to make here where he's played, I think he's got 2 appearances on the year. So with the new redshirt rule, you can get 4 appearances and still redshirt. So depending on the status of Fashanu, they're going to have to make a call here is, do we just burn the red shirt as they've done with a number of freshmen? We've seen tons of, in fact, you mentioned Katron Allen, among others, 9 total red shirts burned this year out of this true freshman class, which is pretty crazy. So to be seen here of whether they say, hey, we need him because we need him to help us win, or do they try to patch something else together to be able to preserve that red shirt for Shelton? So something to watch out for over these next few weeks.
And then you mentioned their defensive line. They are a force. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys with double-digit pressures.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually lost 2 of their starting linebackers last year. But Jashawn Barham, freshman, has been stepping up. He's second on the team in sacks with 3, third in total tackles with 41, has a forced fumble and a fumble recovery on the year. So that kid is stepping up. They also have a defensive back, Deontay Banks, who had a lot of hype coming into the season. He's 6'2", 205, junior.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at his coverage grades, he's only allowing 40% catch rate, which is good. He's been targeted 45 times, only allowed 18 catches, but 4 touchdowns allowed on him to 1 pick. So he might be someone to target, but I think the man to target is this guy right here. He plays in the slot, Tarheeb Still.
Mm-hmm.
On the year, 35 targets. He's allowed 27 catches for 281 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I think that's who we go after. And I think we also go after Banks. So I'm calling for a big game for Brenton Strange. I think he goes off. And then I'm also calling for a big game for Parker Washington. Those 2.
Like it. You saw, Parker and Mitchell both have kind of alternated. Parker had the big game in the whiteout. Tinsley with a big game this past week against Indiana. So we'd love to see Parker get back in the mix and continue to improve his potential draft stock.
Is he definitely leaving? Or
I don't think it's definite. He's eligible, but it could be one where he tests the waters a little bit. It might get convinced to come back to help a wideout group that's going to still be inexperienced going into next year.
Yeah, that was another on Twitter. Someone said, who would you want to see stay? And they gave like a rating out of 10. I think Olu was like 8.5. And I said to him, and they're like, well, why would he stay? He's already, a first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries could come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Could turn some scouts off. And he might want to come back and further his draft stock, become a top 10 pick, possibly a top 5 pick. Offensive tackles are valuable, especially left tackles.
Absolutely.
Oh, big thing we didn't mention, Chop. Going back to face his old team.
The storyline.
Here we go. This is going to be for the battle next week. So I'm going to set the total. Chop Robinson over under 1.5 sacks.
Give me that over, baby.
Okay. I'll go with the under. Okay. Loser has to wear Maryland gear next podcast. Oh. I hate that I have the under. Let's save this. Let's save this for the Big Ten betting bonanza. I don't want to bet on the under for Chop. No way. No way. But speaking of the Big Ten betting bonanza, we head to week 11, where it's getting tough out there. Tough week last week, but we're ready to bounce back in week number 11. And I know I'm right on that one because I'm staring right at it. 2 straight tough weeks for the boys. I am once again the trash man. Frank Reynolds, always sunny. I get my bets and I throw them all over the ring. That's what I do. Trash man. Went freaking 0-3 last week, which is statistically just as impressive as going 3-0, but financially way less impressive. In Dave and I's battle of the Penn State Indiana total, I had under 50.5, lost that. Lost the Maryland first half money line against Wisconsin. Yeah, against Wisconsin. Bad. And then went against my own Professor Chaos theory and took Illinois minus 16.5, who we talked about straight up lost. Goose egg for me, week 10, minus 3 units. No Bonanza points. The season struggling to get back to 500. I am 11-15-1, down 4.9 units, 13 Bonanza points. So I think at this point in the season, my goal is to just go to 500 and be down half a unit, maybe 0, hopefully +1. Just not be the trash man anymore. On the other side, Dave, compared to his recent streak, has also been struggling a little bit with only 1 win last week, being that battle of the Penn State Indiana total. He had the over in that one, lost the over 50.5 in Maryland, Wisconsin. That finished at 23-10. Rutgers plus 26 looked great at half. They were
Great
up
at halftime.
17-14.5. And then they get outscored 38-0 in the second half. So 1 and 2 on the week. Let me look up your units. 1 and 2 on the week, down 1.1 units, +1 Bonanza point, which brings you up to 22 Bonanza points to my 13. I'm gonna need a miracle in these last 3 weeks to catch you. But let's kick it off. Week 11. First bet. Who you got?
I am going over to the chaos of the West in a marquee matchup. The Boilermakers versus the Fighting Illini. I'm banking on Aiden O'Connell in that offense, bouncing back strong. And I'm taking the over 44.5. I think that total's too low. So give me the over 44.5.
Wow. Okay. 44.5?
44.5.
I thought you were going to take it. Chaos theory must prevail. The spread is Purdue plus 6.5. I'm tempted to take that, but 6.5, weird number. Don't really like it. Would prefer 7.5. So I'm going to go Purdue money line plus 210 for +5 Bonanza points.
Oh,
Is that
could be the bounce back you need, brother.
Purdue money line? What is it right now? Plus 210. Boom. Swings. Big swings for the fences here.
I like it.
On my side.
All right, so pick number 2. I know I've been struggling the last couple of weeks, but I'm sticking to my instincts. Michigan, Nebraska. So Michigan putting up tons of points week in and week out. Total looks a little low to me. Michigan's about 30.5. I've seen 31.5 point favorites here. Over under 48.5. I'm going to take the over 48.5 here. I think Michigan comes close to covering that themselves. And I think Nebraska get a couple backdoor touchdowns in there to hit the over.
Over 40.5. I feel like you're like running millions of simulations on this game for these totals.
Yeah.
I've never seen somebody take so many totals in a season in my entire life.
It's usually not my thing, but I've been rolling with it.
God, you're the total man for a reason. All right. So sticking with my Professor Chaos theory, I'm going with it. Wisconsin traveling to Iowa. Like we said, same record. Wisconsin's -1.5. Strange. Usually the home
Sketchy
team
line.
is built in like -2, -3. So this is screaming Wisconsin to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take Wisconsin -1.5. Book it.
Like it.
And let the chaos reign.
On all of us. Not just the West. All right. Final pick. We've been talking about it. It's a rivalry. I know. But I'm taking the Knits -10 this week. I think it's a disrespectful line. Like you said before.
It is.
Should be a 2-touchdown line. So I'm taking the 10 points all day long, keeping the Knits -10.
So we don't have a battle this week, and I'm not going to take Maryland +10. No way. So I'm going to go ahead and take the under in Penn State, Maryland. That'll be my 4th pick.
Okay.
Now, so the bet is next week, whoever loses will have to don Maryland gear throughout the podcast. So let's choose. What game haven't we picked yet?
Ohio State game.
40 point spread. Which side do you want?
Is it Rutgers?
Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. Oh,
I mean, who knows who's playing quarterback for them?
I'll give you the Buckeyes -40.5.
40. I'm taking Indiana +40.
Let's go.
I mean, it's going to be like 56.
You might get the cheer for Jack Tuttle one last time.
We got it. This is locked in at, what is it, 40.5?
I think it's 40.5. Yeah.
-40.5. This won't count towards our betting bonanza record, but loser of that total battle must don Maryland gear next week. And with
Get
that,
yourself back on track, CJ.
now you root for Ohio State. What is this? Come on.
You want the Heisman or what?
And with that, I want to thank you once again for tuning in, listening to us talk Penn State football. We absolutely love it. We love all the support from you guys. And we're going to keep this train rolling for as long as possible. As long as Penn State football is alive, Whiteout Weekly will be alive. So thank you once again. Thank you to my Uncle Rob for coming on, talking about his playing days, going to Penn State. I'm sure that was kind of painful to talk about at some points, but appreciate it nonetheless. And if you guys could toss us a like and subscribe on YouTube, that'd be huge. Definitely helps our channel and, helps us potentially do this full time.
For sure. Thank you, guys.